accidents, fires, crimes, things that just happen with no warning. That's spot news, something you can't really plan on, but the media has to cover to keep us informed. In this edition of Through the Lens, Republican photographers Dave Roback and Don Treeger share some of their spot news pictures and stories. Gentlemen, always good to have you in. Thanks for coming by. Appreciate it. Spot news. That's the accident, the fire, the explosion, the incident that happens, and you go to it, you roll up to it, you got no idea what you're going to find when you get there. It's always
a surprise.
Yeah, always a surprise. Dave, we're going to start with shots you took at a fire situation. And I mean, they're really amazing shots, the stuff you get, because it seems to me at spot news, obviously you're taking a still picture, but you're trying to convey the action and the urgency.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to roll up to. And actually, on this one here, it wasn't much of a fire, but it was a very, very cold day. And the story is the people fighting the fire.
Exactly.
So you try to get, the ice coming off the helmets and things of that nature. Like I said, it wasn't a very big fire, but these guys were struggling because it was one cold day, I think, in January.
And it reminds you how tough the job is for the guys that got to be out there doing it, whether it's police, the fire, linemen when power lines go down, whatever it might be. Let's look at the next picture. is amazing in the way it's framed. I mean, how do you do that? I guess it's luck and skill.
It's one of those things when you roll up, you take a look at the scene, see what's going on, and since this was in Springfield, you try to get the ladder in there, and you try to, a little bit of a long lens. And this was up off of Liberty Street, and this thing was burning for a while. And, they tried to knock it down the best they could, and then they just ended up retreating.
Next photo really tells a story of what we all used to see when we covered any events like this. The emergency folks are there, but the people who've been affected.
Yeah, a lot of times victims and whatever, they're not available. And I believe this was a next door neighbor, and I don't know if this was his dog or the dog from the house. Like I said, house fires are tragic. People lose their property, people lose their home, and like I said, you try to tell a story. You get the picture of the building, you get the picture of the firefighters working, but you also try to get people affected. And not all the time people are affected, but animals are affected too. So you scan the scene and see what's going on. Like I said, you never know what you're going to see when you roll up to a spot news.
And the amazing,
it's not planned.
Exactly. And the amazing thing to me about this one is you've got two worlds right there in the one picture. You got the firefighter ready to go in, ready to do whatever's needed, and you've got the neighbor caring for the dog maybe that's been brought out of the fire or certainly upset by all the activity on the street. And they're each doing their own very important thing at the same time, yes, but a million miles apart in a sense. The burning building, again, that says it all.
This one here, I was off the clock. It was a Sunday morning. I was going to breakfast with my daughter, and we just passed this, and this thing was burning, and unfortunately, a person passed away. But it's one of those things you pull off to the side of the road, tell your daughter, I'll be back in a little bit. You always try to travel with a camera, whether it's in the trunk of your car or in your pocket or whatever. I didn't have my full complement of, lenses, but I did have something. And like I said, this ended up being a fatal fire.
Now, Don Treeger, This picture, this to me, it's again a still picture, but the sense of urgency and action is there.
Well, then this photograph and the ones that follow are all from the same scene. I was in the office on a Saturday a few years ago, and a call came in that a police officer was shot. That is not the police officer, just so we know. And so I raced to the scene. It was in Mason Square in Springfield. And you start thinking to yourself, okay, this is going to be a big story if it's true. And as I was driving, I listened to the scanner, and yes, indeed, two police officers had been shot. So you tell yourself to breathe. You think about it. You have to be very conscious about breathing and calming yourself down because your adrenaline is flowing when you're on your way to spot news. And I had cameras on the seat next to me, and I was driving and checking the settings on the camera because I knew I'd probably have to shoot exactly when I get out of the car. And so we get to the scene. This was one of the first pictures I made at the scene. This was before any police tape was up. I got there very quickly. This is one of the responding officers with his gun out, responding to the scene. I was ducking behind a cruiser and made this picture. And what had happened was this gentleman had shot people in a barbershop in Springfield, and then they chased them to a house in a neighborhood, and then he popped out of a trunk firing at the officers with an automatic weapon. And he hit two of them. They were fine. They went to the hospital, but they were fine. That's one more from the scene, and that's the same scene again. You know, you scan the scene, you try to, you know, make as many pictures as possible because now we do large galleries for online use. The next one was also taken while I was crouched down behind the cruiser. The house across the street is where the gunfire came from, and this was a woman who was in the car with her baby, the car that the guy popped out of shooting, I believe. Wow. So that was a picture that I think really tells a story. It made a powerful picture while I was crouched down. That's one of the officers that was shot. His vest caught the bullet.
Still painful, I'm told.
Still, yes, I guess so. But yeah, he caught the bullet in the vest. So these are the, you know, if you can get there fast, you can get some good photographs.
A lot of times you don't know what you have until you get back to the office and then go through the stuff because you're just, a lot of times it's unconscious. It's true. You just do it. So, you know.
Yeah.
It's intense. I mean, I can remember being at very few scenes like back in the old street reporter days at Channel 40, and guys maybe you've known on the force that you see, that you joke around with, all of a sudden are screaming, yelling, get down, get out of here, go. They've got a job to do. They don't want anybody else to get hurt. They don't want to get hurt. They don't want you to get hurt. Gentlemen, always good to have you in. And thanks, what do we tell everybody?
Don't forget to buy a newspaper, Jim.
Absolutely. Dave Roback, Don Treeger, thanks for coming by.
Great. Thank you, Jim.